Hi, this is Eli Kranzberg, and welcome to this series on the new Studio One version 5. We're going to be taking a fresh look at this from the top to bottom and look at getting you up and running as quickly and efficiently as possible. When you launch Studio One 5, you'll be presented with this start page where you can select what you want to do. And for those of you with a keen eye who've used earlier versions, you'll notice a new button here for New Show, which is a whole new format for running Studio One that provides a series of features that are useful for using it in live performance. So we can start a new song, which is what we use to record and edit and mix our music, a new project, which is used for mastering, the shows, which are used for live performance, and we have the same buttons up here. Now, before we get started, we want to make sure that we've got our audio interface selected and configured, and right now, this is what I'm using, Universal Audio Thunderbolt interface. You can click here and it'll bring up the preferences with the audio setup parameters to choose from. And you can also get to this from here, preferences, and get the same window. So you can select your playback device and your recording device independently, and it's pretty common to use the same for both. We can set the buffer size here for how quickly we want Studio One to grab packets of audio from the audio interface. The lower the setting, the less latency there will be, but the more demanding it'll be on the computer. And the higher the setting, the lower the demand on the computer, but there'll be greater latency since it's grabbing larger packets and going back and forth less frequently. 128 is generally a good, safe sample on a modern computer. We can set the sample rate here, and depending on your audio interface, you'll have different options. And the input and output latency are reported automatically from that. And we have a second tab here for some processing parameters. And the defaults are generally a good starting point. We have dropout protection and process precision. We can go double 64-bit, which is going to be the advised setting for new modern computers. And again, these are calculated and reported based on your audio drivers. So let's close that up, and we're going to go ahead and create a new song. So by clicking here, it's bringing up a new song dialog box, and there are several templates that are useful and instructive to look through. You can get an idea of some of the things Studio One 5 can do and some ways of configuring and setting up your songs. Here on the Interfaces tab, we have preset configurations for different audio interfaces that you might be using. And finally, we'll have user songs here. My list is empty for the moment, and you can populate that as you get more comfortable with Studio One. Now here, we can set some parameters for the new song. We can set the sample rate. I'm going to stick with 44.1, which is pretty conventional. And here under resolution, new in Studio One 5, we have 64-bit float format for modern audio interfaces. So it's nice to have that available. We can set our time base to bars or to seconds, samples, frames. I'm going to leave it in bars, and that's usually what we're going to use when we're working with music. And we can set a default song length and tempo, but these can all be changed. Same thing with the time signature and key signature. And I'm going to leave the rest as their defaults. Now, the important thing here is to name your song and determine where on your hard drive you're going to save it to. So let me start by naming it. And then we click here on this ellipses button to bring up a file dialog box. And I'm going to go to this folder, which is what I'm using for this new video series. I'm going to create a new subfolder in here called Songs. So that's where I'm going to save this new song to. So let's hit OK. And now we have a new empty song. I'm going to end off here, and we'll continue with more in the next video.